Hi, friends. Hello. How are you all doing? My name is Alina Sholtsova. I'm a New York immigration lawyer, and tonight we're going to have live where I'm going to be sharing with you the most recent immigration news. We're going to talk about asylum fee. Very important information I'm going to be sharing with you today about this asylum fee situation. I'm going to cover DACA news, DACA updates. We have about 500,000 DACA holders in the United States, and for you guys, this DACA update is absolutely important. And I'm also going to cover CDL rules changes. Many of my clients are truck drivers. A lot of immigrants are in this industry, and guess what? Big changes are coming. So thank you very much for joining. Please like and share this stream, say hello, and of course, type up your questions. Let me know where you're watching from, and of course, type up your questions. What immigration questions you have, I will be happy to answer them if I know the answer. And if I don't, I will be honest and I'll tell you that I do not know the answer. Well, hopefully I will know it. I do have 17 years of experience, but I am very conservative, always with my answers, just not to mislead you. And of course, remember, this is not a full consultation. Here, I'm just quickly answering your questions to help you guys out, to give you some idea as to what to watch out for, what information to seek, things like that. So why don't we start? We're going to start with this very interesting, exciting news, actually, that the government of the United States is going to process finally new applications for DACA. For 4 years, new applications for DACA since 2021 were on freeze. DACA, as you may know, first started in 2012 by then President Obama. It's a program for people who were brought to the United States when they were children, when they were kids. They had no control over their life at that time. And President Obama, recognizing this problem that we have hundreds of thousands of these kids, maybe millions, living in the United States without status. They speak English better than me, maybe better than some people who are born in the United States. They are Americans. Some of them have no idea that they're not US citizens, yet when they get older, when they were getting older, they discovered they did not have status. And the administration back then recognized that and offered this opportunity. I guess, it's not a real good status, but it was something. All right, it was something. It was a work permit and travel permit, and they call it DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. When the first Trump administration came into the office, we started experiencing changes to the program. There were lawsuits and things like that. And in 2021, what happened was that there was a freeze on the program. So those who got DACA approved were able to renew it. But those who were late with the applications, maybe they hoped for a different status, maybe for some other reasons they didn't file prior to 2021. Maybe they couldn't meet the requirements. Those applications, the administration started collecting but not processing. In other words, you would file your application, you would submit the fees where appropriate, and then you would sit and wait for 4 years. Nothing was happening because of this federal situation, federal lawsuit, which finally US government stated they are going to resolve, of course, subject to the court's approval, but they're going to resolve it the following way. Everywhere except for the state of Texas, new applications for DACA are going to be accepted, but you have to qualify for it under the rules that existed in 2012. Mind that this administration may change the rules, but so far this is where we are. New applications will be processed, new applications will be allowed to be filed. And if you guys filed your applications a long time ago, they should be processed, okay? Now, in Texas, you will be able to renew your applications. Thank you very much, Simon, for your rose, for the gift. In Texas, you will be allowed to renew your applications, but you will not be allowed to get a work permit. You're still going to hold DACA status, which protects you from deportation or removal, but no work permit. And I can imagine no advance parole, I guess. So, if you qualify for DACA in New York, but fate had it and you decided to move to Texas, you're going to lose your work permit. If you did not have work permit but had DACA in Texas, but you would like to have a work permit, you move to a state different than Texas, and then you're going to have a work permit. That's how it's going to work under this new DACA management, I guess, right? Because the program has been around for 13 years now, but the way the government manages it differs from administration to administration. So that's the first thing that we are discussing. Is it worth it to file for DACA now? Absolutely. If you qualify under 2012 rules, knowing that there are mass deportations going on, you see those videos how ICE agents are handling people. You do not want to be one of those people who are apprehended and then deported, nobody knows to where. So please consult with a lawyer, see if you qualify. It's very important that you do not miss this opportunity again if you missed it before. All right. Now I'm going to cover, of course, this update about CDL driver's, it's a commercial driver's license. Well, this is what it stands for. Lots of immigrants, they have skills when they arrive, but due to language barriers sometimes or lack of local education, they may not find themselves, especially during their first years in the United States. And one of the popular ways, I guess, to make money for people, for immigrants, new immigrants, has been driving trucks or Uber if you have work permits, right? Well, this administration decided that those foreign-born drivers represent danger, even though I believe only 1% of them out of all the commercial drivers are actually foreign-born drivers. And the federal government stated that they will be tightening the rules. They would like basically to make sure that people only in legal, lawful non-immigrant status will be able to get CDLs. And I think they shared some examples like H2A, H2B, even though H2B would be driving commercially, but forget it. E2, and of course, if you're a green card holder or a citizen. So what the federal government found out is that in certain states, when a person would have initial legal status, temporary status, let's say a work permit, their CDL driver's license will be issued for a longer term. And they did not like it. They stated that this has to stop. And we already see, for example, that Texas announced that they're not going to give CDL to DACA recipients. They stated DACA recipients, I guess, also non-domiciled residents. Asylees, even asylees. An asylee is a person, that's the word that's used in the article, I believe. An asylee is the person who already got asylum status. They have nowhere else to go, all right? Asylees, I think they meant asylum pending status. And people in temporary legal status are not going to get those CDLs if they are basing in Texas. If their base is Texas, that's where they live. And I can imagine some other states would follow. So rules are changing. Maybe they will come to some agreement on with regard to people who have work permits, right? At least we're going to see how it's going to go. But for now, you need to know if you are a commercial driver's license, if you're a trucker, you may see changes, you may lose your license, and potentially will have to find a different way to earn a living, okay? And finally, asylum fee. Guys, that's a big topic. We have millions of asylum seekers in the United States, millions. And with the one big, beautiful bill came one big, beautiful mess. What happens on the bill is just poorly written. And the government has not provided clear instructions as to how to pay fees under the new rules that they passed. So asylum seekers are in a lot of distress because they do not want to lose their asylum cases, because if you don't pay this asylum fee, your case will be denied. And some judges already closed the cases because person did not pay asylum fee. So asylum fee can be of two types: initial fee and annual asylum fee. Initial fee has to be paid by people who file their cases on or after certain date, which varies depending on where you are in court or with USCIS. USCIS published rules saying that if you filed your case on or after October 1st, 2024, then you will have to pay that initial fee, and they will let you know how to pay it, okay? But EOIR, Office of Immigration Review, stated something different. Hence came huge confusion because nobody really knows how to pay that asylum fee if it is not initial but annual fee. So I personally advise my clients to pay it up. Today was the deadline. Why? Because the fiscal year is closing today. And I hope, of course, for those of you who did not pay your annual fee by today's date, you're not going to be punished by the administration for that because of this confusion, because we do not really know, because judges don't really know when to file, when to pay that fee. Initial fee you can file when you file with USCIS by sending them a check, when you file with EOIR by paying on their portal. But the portal, the payment portal for EOIR, did not give an opportunity to anyone to pay what's called annual asylum fee. And people just paid initial fee, and some judges confirmed that they will accept that and they will not close anybody's cases for people who were due to pay their annual asylum fee but couldn't submit their payments through the portal in the correct category. This initial fee will work for now. So you see, it's all a mess. We do not know. We can only guess. We can make our best decision as to what has to be done with this asylum fees. And guess what? We have a champion. ASAP, non-for-profit organization that filed numerous lawsuits before fixing these errors and uncertainties in our immigration lives, is planning on filing a lawsuit about these asylum fees. Why? Well, because it's a mess. All they needed to do, the government, to give people clear instructions when and how to pay. And perhaps they could have avoided the lawsuit. But now that's where we stand. So if I were you, if you have a court hearing coming up and your annual asylum fee is due in court, I would pay it through initial option on EOIR portal. All right? That's just what I advise people. And you, of course, may wait for the judge's instructions, but you do not want to come into that courtroom and the judge says that they will deny your case because you didn't pay that silly fee. All right. So this is the update about the asylum filing fees. And now, guys, if you have questions, I'll be very happy to answer them. So don't forget to share the stream and let me know where you're watching from. Hi, attorney. So is DHS official accepting new applications for DACA? Well, the announcement came, I believe, yesterday. So the judge has to approve it. And when they do, when the court does it, then they will be accepting it. And I imagine USCIS is going to publish an official announcement about that on their website. Okay? That's what's going to happen. Yep. You do not want to submit anything without that official announcement on USCIS website. Yes, Kevin, we're very happy for DACA people. Guys, DACA people, those who qualify for this DACA thing, they're in their 40s now. That's how long they've been in the United States without status. Most of those people, they're in their 40s. Yeah, it's crazy. Hi, Katia. I have a question. Since my I-589 was filed in February 2024, do I need to pay the new 100 fee or doesn't it apply to my case? Yes, you will have to pay the new fee, but it depends on where your case is. If it is with USCIS, then you have to wait for USCIS to send you a notice, an invitation for payment. But if it is with court, you could go ahead and use the portal and pay it on the portal, because the way I read the rules, the fee was due in 2025 fiscal year, which ends tonight. Okay? Hi, peace on nurse. If you don't need a green card to obtain work, own your business, and have a criminal issue, can you wait to renew green card after expiration date till next term? I mean, technically you probably can, but what if you will have an urgent need to travel internationally or to prove your status for federal purposes? I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't wait. I would consult with a lawyer and see if you should file. And the way things are going, I don't know who's going to be the next term. I'll be honest, So see if absolutely several lawyers, let's say, tell you do not file, then don't file. Okay. Otherwise, I think it would be prudent to have a valid green card. All right. Hi, Emmy. My friend filed for asylum in March of 2025. Her court is, when it's a court, well, she'll have to pay that annual fee and an initial fee according to the rules. So they will make her pay that fee. Don't worry. Guys on TikTok, let me answer some questions. Hi, Shanice. Can someone on welfare help someone obtain a green card? Yes, they can, but they will have to have a joint sponsor. And by the way, the government recently stated that if your immigrant person you're sponsoring, after they get this green card, if that person is going to try to get any means tested benefits and you signed that affidavit of support, the government is going to go after you, asking for money back for the value of the benefits that person received. So just keep that in mind, all right? Especially if you're a joint sponsor, household sponsor, and things like that, okay? Hi, Sync, renew your country passport inside the United States for approved country passport. Can someone, I'm not sure what the question is, renewing your country passport inside the United States for approved country passport? If you give me a little bit more details, I'll be able to answer this question. I'm not sure what's happening here. Okay. Hi, Malinka. How long will it take to get a U visa confirmation? I applied on April 30th, 2025. U visa receipt, you mean? It may take up to 5 months, a very long time. Yep, thank you, Simon, for your gift. Thank you, guys, for your nice words and gifts. Hi, Omolola. My asylum pending in immigration court. Is it safe to self-deportation and my green card file for me? All right, so I guess you have an asylum case pending in immigration court and you would like to leave the United States, so your green card spouse is going to file for you. That's what is happening. Well, then you will have to ask for voluntarily departure. All right? You can't just leave the United States without consequences once your case is in immigration court. It's very important to understand that. Why? Because you're going to be ordered deported by default. It's very important to understand that. But your plan may work depending on when you filed for asylum. You may or may not need a waiver later. But in theory, it's possible. In practice, too. You just have to make sure that you do everything correctly. Okay? That's what has to be done. Thank you guys for the hearts. Those of you who are watching me on TikTok. Yes, your visa receipts do take a very long time. Hi, Ghislaine. Thank you for the gift. I had an arrest with dismissal in 2023 and want to apply for citizenship. All right. So, work with an attorney. As you may know, this current administration slightly adjusted the rules. Well, they changed a lot of them. When we talk about qualifications for citizenship, you will have to show you're a person of good moral character, and even your past arrests that resulted in dismissal may create a problem depending on how exactly your case was resolved. And of course, you should be prepared to discuss what happened and have, just in case, evidence of your good moral character and rehabilitation just in case. All right? Yes, citizenship. By the way, just read today that USCIS is going to be hiring who they call Homeland defenders. Homeland defenders. They stated that these Homeland defenders are going to be processing citizenship applications, and they will make sure that people who do not have this good moral character will not qualify for the citizenship. Interesting title they chose for this group of USCIS officers. So just keep that in mind. You have to prepare now very well. The citizenship application became a very serious process, okay? I haven't 30 filed since July 2022. When can I get approval? I don't know. It depends on who filed for whom. In what category. It may take a very long time. And if there are any issues there, all right? All right. High pass divergence. Do background checks occur before or after the naturalization interview? Well, I think both. So what happens is that, of course, before the interview, they do run background checks to make sure that you left on your form you submitted truthful information. Very often, a person would forget about an arrest or some encounter with law enforcement and would go for that interview, and the officer will confront them with questions. It's not a pretty sight to see when the person is surprised. They thought that their ticket was forgotten, ticket from 20 years ago for, let's say, not paying a fee on the subway back then, when it was a more serious offense than now, things like that. And then the officer discovers information that they, hey, why didn't you disclose truthfully that you had this arrest, for example, right? Something of that sort. So I can tell you that they do run background checks prior to the interview. And nowadays, I think they're going to do it after the interview as well, before the oath, just to make sure that the person has a clean record, all right? You also need to know something. If after the interview, but before the oath, you are accused, arrested, you committed some crime, you may no longer qualify for citizenship. And if you still take the oath, you don't disclose this information, you take the oath and you become a US citizen, the government later may file that denaturalization lawsuit against you. Okay? Just keep that in mind. You have to be truthful and accurate in your answers. Hi, me. When can I adjust my status after marrying within 90 days? Is there a timeline, please? Right, so it's preferred if you file your adjustment of status. I understand you came on a K1 fiancé visa. That's why there is a 90-day deadline. So it's preferred if you file your adjustment of status within the same 90 days if possible. Right? But if not, if you file later, much later, you may have to submit a new I-130. That's what's happening with that. Okay, but you can still adjust your status. What you need to remember is this. Once you enter the United States on a K1 visa, you only can adjust status based on the petition of that K1 petitioner. And they have to produce affidavit of support for this to work. There is an exception if you're an abused person, VAWA, but it's very difficult to impossible to receive, just the way the law is structured and the timeline, very difficult. Okay. Hi, Hash. If my case was sent to the court for the master hearing from USCIS, do I have to pay $100? Yes. Everybody will have to pay $100. Yep. Everyone will have to pay this $100 sooner or later. Just keep that in mind. I had an arrest with dismissal on 2023. Yes, we discussed that. Yep. Do you do civil rights? I do. Employment discrimination cases. I do specific type of civil rights. Title 7. Hi, I-751 approved based on extreme cruelty. Can I file N-400 3 or 5 years? Was married to a U.S. citizen 3 years. You can use that expedited pathway to citizenship. If your I-751 was based on a waiver based on VAWA related grounds. Hi, user 477. My misdemeanor was vacated. Should I make sure with Department of Justice that it shows? Okay, so I don't know how you're going to do it with the Department of Justice, but what you need to do is you need to run a self-background check, FBI self-background check, okay? I recommend website printscan.com, but you can go anywhere, all right? Hi, I have 2 tickets with an open container. I want to apply for citizenship. Pay up your tickets first, all right? Close them up. Close them up first. They do have a catch-all exception of unlawful acts, and they may deny your asylum citizenship. If they think that you're somebody who doesn't know how to behave in public and constantly carrying your liquor visibly, right? So just be careful, guys. When you're filing for citizenship, you have to really do a good job obtaining your file, immigration file, doing the self-background check, gathering evidence of good moral character. Maybe you would like to, or you are able to get letters and support. Letters and support from religious leaders. You go to church, mosque, or some other place of worship, right? Even from your employer, things like that. They also would like to see if you're celebrating American holidays. So when you do, make sure that you take pictures and attach to the file, all right? Hi, Moses. My asylum case was recently transferred to immigration court. Should I pay the annual fee? You'll have to, yes. You'll have to pay that annual fee. All right. Hi, Lola. I don't have I-94. Is there any way to get a green card without leaving the country? Green card based on marriage. Without leaving the country, if you don't have a parole or admission, it's not really based on marriage, but because of the marriage, if you were abused during the marriage, and you qualify for VAWA, then you will be able to get a green card even though you don't have that legal entry. All right. So that's what's happening with this. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining tonight. Don't forget to follow so that next time we will be able to meet again. I hope you enjoyed these updates. I hope they are helpful, at least to some of you, your friends, family members, someone you know. So don't forget to like and share this stream. And of course, stay healthy, optimistic, and I'm going to see you guys soon.